Hi everyone, my name is Julie and today we're traveling to a magical land that inspired so many filmmakers, Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. But who inhabited these lands way before the hobbits did? Kia ora koutou, and welcome to the Maori language. Maori, the indigenous language of Aotearoa or New Zealand, is today spoken by around 150,000 people, which represents 3.7% of New Zealand's population. It is an official language of this country alongside with English. Maori is the language of the first people on these islands, so we definitely have to look at their history. The history of Maori language and people starts in Taiwan, where the Proto-Austronesians originated. It is considered that one of the people groups who lived there and who apparently possessed advanced sailing techniques started sailing south in around 2500 BC, becoming Proto-Malayo-Polynesians. These people explored a vast portion of land from Madagascar to the west to Easter Island to the east, from Hawaii to the north to New Zealand to the south. Maori belongs to the Tahitic languages of the Polynesian family on the Oceanic branch. The settlers to New Zealand arrived in around the beginning of 1st century AD. This is the beginning of genesis of Maori as a distinct language, or as the Maori themselves call it, Te Reo, which translates simply as the language. The first brief contact between the Maori and Europeans happened in 1642 with a Dutch expedition led by Abel Tasman. The contact was actually very brief and violent. Tasman left without even going ashore and named the place that he had just discovered the Murderer's Bay. After this, there were no news of Europeans venturing to these lands for 100 years, until the famous expedition by James Cook in 1769. The British brought plenty of new fabulous stuff to Maori people: Christianity, weapons, and the writing system. The Maori language didn't have its own writing system, but it had, and it still has, a very rich oral tradition, which includes the world-famous haka, which is performed on many occasions, especially in the beginning of a rugby match by the New Zealand's rugby team. Another very interesting form of art is whakapapa, or genealogy. Each Maori is able, by reciting their whakapapa, to retrace their ancestors back to the Kanui and the Pacific Islands from which they came to New Zealand, and even further, till the beginning of the universe itself. So now it is about time to see how all of this oral art is actually pronounced. The Maori today is written with the Latin alphabet, and even though there is no official orthography norm, the most widely accepted is this one. 15 letters, 10 consonants, 2 of which are diphthongs. This one pronounced as ng, like in the word sing, and this one pronounced simply as f. There are also 5 vowels. Each of them has a longer version indicated by a macron. Clearly, we can see that there are not so many consonants. But how did that happen? Well, actually, if we trace back, we can observe how progressively, they were losing their consonants, as if they were sailing further and further and throwing these consonants in the ocean. Like that. But why exactly the number of consonants was falling? Well, some researchers say that it is the result of centuries-long isolation and lack of contact with speakers of other languages. As a contrast, you can see the languages of Caucasus, where there are so many languages of completely different language families. And in some of these languages, the consonant number breaks all the records. Maori, on the other hand, has even more rules to limit their consonants. Every syllable must have not more than one consonant and must not finish with one. And that's how all of this sounds.
Kore kore koe nei tetahi o nā āhua tana papai, miki mō te huna mokopuna.
Heoi, i tēnei rā, ki te whakaako au i tēnei āhua kōuraura, ko ngā karu ka kōuraura te āhua.
A very unique sound system which promises a very unique grammar. Maori is a VSO language. The verb comes first. So the phrase I see a kiwi, ka kite au I te kiwi, literally translates as see I a kiwi. There is no gender and no number, or almost no number. There are actually only these 8 words that possess both singular and plural versions. For the pronouns, on the other hand, there is a singular, plural, and a dual number. The nouns in Maori don't change forms, there are no cases or something like that, and the same goes for the verbs. There are no conjugation, which is a good news. So to express the tense, the mood, the role of the word in the sentence, Maori extensively uses particles. And these come in all shapes and colors. So in our previous phrase with the kiwi, ka is a present tense marker, I is the object marker, and te is the definite article. The particles basically build the sentence and the meaning. But how does Maori build the words? Let's see in the vocabulary. Once a man named Tamatea went to a place and played the flute there. And then this happened. This is the longest place name on the planet, which translates as the place where Tamatea, the man with the big knees who slid, climbed and swallowed mountains, known as Land Eater, played his flute to his loved one. Of course, Maori vocabulary has a lot of influx from English, but due to a specific phonetic system, it is sometimes not that easy to recognize the English ancestor. For example, this word, peke, comes from the English bank. Okay, there is no sound b in Maori, so it is replaced by its voiceless version p. The sounds n and k become one, and the vowel is added at the end because every syllable has to be open, and we get peke. Because why not? Here are some other examples. Hohi comes from the word church, hoiho, horse, tihema, December, and futuporo, football. In English, of course, we use Maori words for describing local flora and fauna, for example, kiwi or kea, or for the aspects of Maori culture, for example, haka. But there is actually something that all of us inherited in some sort from the Maori and Polynesian culture, especially if you are gaming. This is the concept of mana. Mana in Maori culture is the spiritual life force that permeates all the universe. It can be found in every individual and in everything. A person with a lot of mana can exercise their power on other people or over the land. It is a life force, it is authority. Oh, Gabi, I think you have a lot of mana. What do you think? Lately, actually, Maori culture has experienced some sort of a renaissance. A lot of people, even if they're not of Maori descent, become interested and inspired by this culture and language and mix it with some other forms of art, like for example this. Yes, a metal band who are not of Maori descent but who sing in Maori and who promote this language and actually became very popular. And my personal opinion, Maori language sounds pretty good in metal. Something about this war spirit, you know? That goes together. So as always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit like, subscribe, please comment. You know what to do. Special thanks and respect to my patrons. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.